Hi BookTube, welcome to another Middlemarch meditation. Seems a shame, but the only way I can think to introduce this particular episode is by talking about the weather. Yesterday, we managed to go down to London, myself and the person who watches television. We went down to St. Pancras International Station, which is right next door to the British Library. We went in to see the John Riblatt Gallery, which is their permanent, it is a permanent gallery that is open to the public, but what is displayed in it changes. Now, I've known for a long time that the manuscript of Middlemarch has been there, although it has also travelled around England to other museum and library sites. I was hoping when we went down yesterday that we would be able to have a look at Middlemarch, at the manuscript pages that George Eliot wrote. Unfortunately, that wasn't on display. In fact, there wasn't a great deal on display. And the video that you're looking at now is the view of inside the Riblatt Gallery, which, as you can see, is extremely dark. It's kept that way, obviously, to protect the manuscripts. But I don't know, even from this vantage point, which is limited, you can see just the number of cases and the displays where there doesn't appear to be anything there. And what we did find was that very often, inside many cases, there would just be this notice. And so there was a lot, and obviously it's February. It's February, it is not the tourist season. And so the reason that we probably found we were struggling a bit to get a lot to look at in the John Riblatt Gallery is that they were getting ready for springtime, for April probably, to fill that gallery display with something that maybe hadn't been there before, or some things that had. Maybe there was refurbishment work and care going on. Probably it helped some of the manuscripts not to be on display constantly. But that doesn't mean we didn't have a fantastic day, because we did. The library is amazing. There's no two ways about it. It's a fantastic place to visit, and you can see shots here. This is me filming just the whole gallery area in reception, which is beautiful, just for the wide open space that it is. Well, how can I describe the library? Because there's so much going on. In addition to the Riblatt Gallery, which is free and always open to the public, there were a series of exhibitions we could have paid to see. There was one on, as you can see from the banner, about medieval women. Also, in addition to all the exhibitions, downstairs, which you may be able to see in this video if I caught the staircase, but you probably see better when I film the fountain. Downstairs, there is access to the reading rooms. Now, the reading rooms, provided you show identity and sign up for a reader's card, you can go in, you can request books that are stored by the British Library, and there are millions of books stored in that library. You can sit down and study in a quiet place with free Wi-Fi, connections to charge up your devices so that you can work on a laptop or whatever device you have. And I'm very tempted. I didn't get a reader's card that day, but I am very tempted to go ahead and do that, just to spend the day working there. Even to work on a script for one of these videos would be fantastic. So what does all this have to do with Middlemarch? Because this is a Middlemarch meditation video. Well, it does, in the sense that when we were disappointed by not being able to see Middlemarch at the British Library, we went for a bit of lunch, and then we went down to Scoob Books. That's S-K-O... Why can't I spell Scoob? S-K-O-O-B. Scoob Books, which is, of course, books backwards. It took me ages to figure that out. Yeah, I know, you all had that, but not me. Not me. Anyway, so we had lunch. We went to Scoob Books, which is one of the largest second-hand bookshops in London. And the cool thing about it is it does specialize, because it's surrounded by the campus of the University of London. It tends to pick up a lot of the academic nonfiction on various subjects. And so we spent, I'd say, probably a couple of hours browsing in there. And as I was looking around, I found some absolute treasures. Maybe better than seeing the manuscript of Middlemarch was finding these books, which I think are going to be fantastic, and I'm certainly going to bring them in. I'm going to tell you how I'm going to bring them in to our future Middlemarch meditations. Firstly, what I found was the book. In my last tag video, I mentioned this book and I said, this is one of the books I'd like to have on my fantasy shelf. And I can't believe I found it, and in pretty good condition and very reasonably priced, I think. And that is, ta-da, George Eliot, A Life, by Rosemary Ashton, the same one who has written the introduction to the version of Middlemarch that I'm going through, the Oxford Classics version. This is her Life of George Eliot. And I'm really pleased I got hold of this. I only paid £9, which I think for the hardback is pretty good. I mean, this isn't in collector's condition. I am not that kind of book buyer anyway. I only need to know, is it readable? And also, I think if it is a little bit sort of tired, that's fantastic for me, because I would probably want to annotate this when it comes to looking at it, mark passages up and use it for these meditations where appropriate. And I think I bookmarked a place because I thought it would be cool to just read the passage. What she's done that's a little bit different from other biographers is, rather than just run through George Eliot's life, which she does more or less, but she does it by novel. She does it by book. So that, yes, you get a little bit of Marion's childhood, but what you get is how the past and the time that she's writing a particular book feeds into that novel. So she's got a whole chapter just devoted to Middlemarch, about 30 pages. And I'm going to quote a little bit from that. Okay, so this is from chapter 12, which is called Writing Middlemarch, 1869 to 1872. And it starts, "It seems odd to us now, playing the role of a knowing posterity, that George Eliot might have written a long poem about Timoleon and might not have written Middlemarch. We have the single but mighty advantage of hindsight over her. For in 1869, as she cogitated her new novel of English life, work went as slowly and haltingly, as doubtingly and despairingly as it had done on Romola. Ill health, domestic troubles, changes of mind, loss of nerve, leading to two separate beginnings for the novel. These the story of 1869 and 1870. Her research into Greek history and culture for the long poem on Timoleon went on intermittently until September 1869, when the subject disappears from her notebooks and journal." So I'm not going to read much further than that, but this is how Ashton seems to want to tackle her life, is talking about the episodes of writing, what she was doing at the time, if only so that you can understand maybe why, in this case, Middlemarch was difficult to get underway, that she wasn't sure where she wanted to go next. And she had a lot of very troubling things going on in her personal life. And as you know, we're all BookTube creators, so we're all creators. What you can bring to BookTube and how often totally can depend on what's going on in your life. And I think we say that a little bit, but I think it's just good to restate it because it's true. And famous authors like Eliot had the same struggle. Sometimes there just wasn't the energy, the spare energy, or the time, or the ideas. They just weren't coming, and they would have up times as well as down. Now, in addition to Rosemary Ashton's book, I found a couple of others. I only bought one. I'm halfway regretting that I didn't buy both, but I began to feel like I was spending too much money. I am being still more careful about just buying books like crazy. But this one I think was a real steal. If I hold it up to camera, you're going to see it's called The Novels of George Eliot by Barbara Hardy. Now, this won't mean much to anyone who hasn't lived in the UK, but I'd like you to look down at the bottom. If you are living in the UK, look at not just the publisher's name, but the price. That's 10 shillings, 6 denarius. So in other words, this is a pre-decimal currency issue of this book. And if you go to the copyright page, it will say that it was first written in 1959, and this copy that I'm holding is the 1963 reprint. So this was written, Barbara Hardy, the author, was Professor of English at Birkbeck College, University of London. at the time that she wrote. And this is her book of series of essays just on the novels of Eliot. And she's trying to look at them as a whole to see what similarities she can find in the way George Eliot formed her books. So each essay would be applicable to whichever George Eliot book you're reading in this case. And she mentions all of them. So I'm just at the moment reading bits of the introductions. You can see with my temporary bookmark there, which is, of course, the receipt. But this one was a real steal. If I thought that I got a good deal with Rosemary Ashton's biography, then I got a much better deal with Barbara Hardy's book, because I got this for £3.50. Now, there was a third book which was entitled The Theology of George Eliot. And yeah, I was tempted, because it was looking at how her views on religion informed her books. And looking back now, I kind of regret that I didn't buy that. I'm hoping that no one else except nerdy people like me are interested in the theology of George Eliot. Me and Joseph Francis Burton, maybe two people. But even so, I think I might work out a way to go down there again and see if I can't pick up that book as well. So what am I going to do with these books? I've been thinking all the way coming back from London on the train. I was thinking, right, we're not far from March. And at any rate, this Sunday and next Sunday are going to be devoted to Middlemarch anyway. So we really only have not many other kinds of content time before we're into March. And I thought that in addition to what I've already promised for Middlemarch March, which is I'm going to spend every single Sunday doing another meditation video, I thought, what am I going to do midweek? And I thought to myself, well, maybe what I will do midweek, this book, because it has a collection of essays, I thought I could do a little video in the middle, just talking about what I read in an essay. This is a very academic book. Just reading the introduction, I thought, there's no way I'm going to read parts of it out. It is difficult to pull out the ideas, but I think what I will do is try to pull out significant ideas that I think you can take away, some pithy quotes where I think maybe the writing gets a little bit less academic. I mean, there's literally a sentence that goes on for a paragraph in here, and this drives me crazy. It's like, how can you expect anyone to understand if you don't break up your thoughts into It's really important. But there you go, academic writing. I don't understand why, but I go with it as best I can. But I do want to introduce this because I think there's some really good ideas in here. She's talking about how the aim of all of George Eliot's novels was to write tragedy, and that Eliot herself, said this in her letters and notes. And that's interesting. So that will inform how she constructs the book. The introduction here talks about slow reading and how just why that was the norm in the 19th century, and how it therefore would affect the way authors wrote books as well as the way people read them. So that's my thought, is I'll try and do a video maybe on each essay, or if I think I can combine two essays, if the ideas are there, I'll do that, so that in midweek, we really will pack March with different aspects of Middlemarch. I'll also try and read a little bit of Rosemary Ashton's biography and bring aspects of maybe do a whole video on what was going on in George Eliot's life at the time she was trying to get the book underway, and what caused her to create the two different manuscripts and the dynamics of those two manuscripts. We're learning about them, but the introduction in this book talked about how where the breaks in the books, they changed. And again, this was to serve publishing in parts, the serial publication of 19th century novels. You had to make a decision if you were going to publish a longer novel in serial form. You had to decide where your cutoff point should be. And it's interesting that those decisions changed. And I think it would be good to look at what we've got here. But that's not all I found out about. There's yet something more. George Eliot kept a notebook that she called her quarry for Middlemarch, and it was full of research notes, parts of the text, commentary on how she wanted to do things as she was constructing Middlemarch. And it was a work that did not come to light. She must have passed it on to someone who passed it on to someone. It wasn't discovered until the 1920s. And then Anna Theresa Kitchel was given access to it because I think it's kept at Harvard. And she wrote this book about the quarry for Middlemarch, which takes a look at what was in these notebooks of George Eliot. So that is available online. And I didn't realize, I went searching thinking, oh, I need that book. And copies to buy are about £40. So I don't know what they'll be in US dollars. But I did find a website which will allow us to look at it and read it online for free. So that's brilliant. So I'm going to include that and include links to it in my Middlemarch March videos. And really that's everything for today. So a much shorter Middlemarch video than you normally get, but I felt it was important just to show you what we got hold of and prepare for Middlemarch March and realize it's going to be a very heavy, focused content month, but I think that's going to be a really, really good thing. I don't have anything else I want to add to that. All I will say is that because you haven't got your usual content today where we go through a few pages, I'm going to go and work on a script now, and probably midweek you will find you get the Middlemarch meditation that you would have expected to get this Sunday, if that makes any sense. I just thought I didn't want you to miss out, and I don't want to slow down going through the book. I just want to be able to do a blitz during March where we get to continue looking at the text, but also looking at other works that help us to understand the text. One more thing though, I do want to talk about a book that I purchased about Middlemarch that I am disappointed in, frankly, and that's this one I'm holding up to camera now. So this is the Connell Guide to George Eliot's Middlemarch, and the quote that is backwards, so let me read it. It says, "Any modern student bold enough to tackle George Eliot's great Middlemarch would find this a useful companion," and that's from Sebastian Faulks. I was going to give my opinion on camera here, and then I thought, well, the truth is I only skimmed through it. And I think I had an expectation of what it was, and that wasn't what it was. And that's always dangerous, isn't it? Because then you're mad. Then you're mad because you've spent money and you haven't got what you wanted for that money. I don't think it's a book with no plus points or no advantages or nothing good to say about it. I just feel that it wasn't what I wanted. I wanted much greater depth, and I think I got it with the 2 volumes that I've bought now and also this Quarry for Middlemarch that we can look at online. I think that's where the real depth is. I think this was a little shallower than I was wanting, but for someone who was coming to Middlemarch for the absolute first time and maybe also to 19th century literature for the first time, yeah, it's a non-academically worded book. It's a little friendlier, but I just found a little bit thin on the kind of information I was wanting. I was wanting a much deeper dive. And that is it, everybody. So as I say, look out midweek, and we will continue with, I think it's chapter 14 that we're starting, and we'll do a few pages as usual, as we would have done today. And then you'll also get the same thing on Sunday. So bonus. So basically we're starting Middlemarch March early. I might fit in one more review. What am I reading right now? Right now I am reading The Vulnerables by Sigrid Nunez. And this was a recommendation by, and I'm going to put the booktuber's name on screen, The Sluggish Reader. And he enthused about this so much that I went ahead and reserved a copy from the library. And it's come, and where am I now? You can see we've not got much more to read. It's my kind of book, I think is what I can say, but I'm going to talk about it properly. But that'll most likely be, that'll be about a week and a half from now. There we go. If you can hang on, you'll get one more fiction review, and then it's Middlemarch March. Okay, that's it, everybody. Hope you're enjoying your February reading, and it's all going well. Take care. See you again soon. Bye-bye.